This is February the 1st, 2020, Kampinoski Park Narodowy. Welcome to Big Picture Walks. This time we're gonna talk about filters behind us and ahead of us. So think about the Fermi Paradox. Okay, the Fermi Paradox is a paradox that, the universe has come to alive with a bang 13.8 billion years ago, and our human civilization only began like 70,000 years ago. So there may have been other planets with other life and other species that had billions of years of a head start before us, so they could have developed massively more advanced technological civilizations. But where are they? We see no evidence of them whatsoever. Why? Okay, that's the Fermi Paradox. And one of the hypotheses why this might be the case is that there may be something called a filter, and preferably a great filter. And what that is a threshold that needs to be passed for a civilization to reach another level of development, but it's extremely hard to pass this threshold. And if you don't pass, well, either you stagnate or you die. Thinking about our own civilization, we need to know if the great filter is already behind us or it is ahead of us. And both situations have dramatically different consequences. If the filter is behind us, we are lucky, we are rare, and we have potentially a great future ahead of us. If it's in front of us, instead, we're doomed. So are we lucky or are we doomed? Nick Bostrom, a great philosopher and thinker, he says that in this context, no news is good news, right? So the more we learn that there may have been life anywhere else in the universe, the more likely is the scenario that the great filter is ahead of us. Let's think about the potential filters that we have already passed as our species, and think of filters that we may encounter in the future. So thinking about the past, of course, several events must have happened for us to reach the stage at which we are in the moment. Life must have emerged. Eukaryotic life must have emerged. There was the Cambrian explosion, further development of various life forms. And eventually, the starting point for our civilization was the cognitive revolution. So certainly we wouldn't have a technologically advanced civilization without the cognitive revolution. Was that all? Well, actually, not really. You can place other candidate filters at the beginning of each technological era. You could think about farming as being a filter, about industry, and obtaining energy from fossil fuels as being another filter, and so on and so on. So it's not perfectly clear what counts as a filter or what doesn't count, but this is the list of candidates that I have, basically at the beginning of each technological era. Was the rise of humankind inevitable? My answer is certainly no. It wasn't inevitable, and not only because our ancestors may have been wiped out by some volcanic eruption, asteroid impact, or things like that. It's also because it was by no means certain that we would pass each further filter. Okay, it was by no means certain that we'll have all these sequence of technological revolutions. Think, for example, about circumstances in which we wouldn't have an industrial revolution and would be stuck in Middle Ages forever. Right? We wouldn't have a scientific revolution, wouldn't have an industrial revolution. Was this possible? So there are some critical points, right? First of all, what if there wasn't this much agricultural land. Another question is, how would we fare without the printing press or any similar means of broadcasting information? Right? That's another question. Antiquity in the Mediterranean made a great leap in terms of knowledge, in terms of technology, but yet they fell short of a scientific revolution. And the same goes for China under the Song and Ming dynasties. In the 10th to 14th century, that was the most technologically advanced part of the world, and yet they somehow fell short of the scientific revolution. So all these things are not deterministic, and things may go wrong at any stage. Will our civilization develop further? We don't know, and not just because we may be, again, one day just wiped out by a massive asteroid impact or a super volcano eruption or something like that. Or maybe it could be even man-made disaster like a global nuclear war with a nuclear winter following it, or runaway global warming that would wipe our species out of the face of the earth. So there are these doomsday scenarios, but I don't really mean this. I mean, what are the scarcities that we may encounter, and we should soon encounter, and we will or will not have means of overcoming this scarcity? As Niels Bohr used to say, it's hard to predict, especially the future. So if I'm gonna make predictions of such big events like filters ahead of us, okay, I'm not gonna succeed. Still, if I were to think about one main candidate for a possible filter that we may encounter in the coming decades, that will be artificial general intelligence. That's because it holds the potential of being qualitatively better than us in terms of data processing, in terms of what we call intelligence. During the history of Earth, there was only one species that passed the threshold of cumulative knowledge accumulation, and that is us. Okay, and that's the key intelligence advantage, if you like, that enabled us to rule the world, to basically conquer all the world's lands and be the apex predator in all ecosystems. Okay, we were not really positively inclined toward all other species that were even slightly inferior in terms of intelligence. Just think about the fate of all hominins, the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, and so on. Well, they're not with us anymore. No longer with us. So, what is our fate if we may manage to create an intelligent process? Its physical form is secondary here. If it's going to be superior to us in terms of intelligence, like qualitatively superior, that is a clear candidate for a filter. The Homo sapiens came into existence through species evolution, and the prospective artificial intelligence will rather came to existence through intelligent design. And I'm having a laugh about this because it's our intelligence that designs the AI, and it's our deficiencies that are making this whole endeavor so risky. It's an algorithm, an entity that will be able to chase a certain goal, and possibly it could do so very adaptively, intelligently, and able to, in a way that it will be able to transgress existing dimensions and setups and do new stuff, which we wouldn't expect, which we wouldn't possibly expect in the beginning. It will have a certain structure of goals programmed by us, and if that structure of goals would not align with our own well-being, which we, by the way, not clearly understand either, it can destroy us in no time if it has sufficient advantage in terms of skills and intelligence and data processing capacity. So it is clearly a candidate for a filter in the future. An important caveat, though, is that if we manage to create an artificial intelligence that would destroy our species, it doesn't automatically mean it will destroy our civilization, because our civilization can go on without us being able to observe it, without us being able to participate and benefit from this progress. So that's a big caveat. You might have a great, spacefaring civilization that would conquer the whole galaxy and whatever you can think of, only that it would not feature humans, because humans could be, for example, perceived as a risk to the goal structure that it has, to the goals, to the objectives that it needs to maximize. Technological feasibility of superhuman AI is a big question, and I'll leave this to another episode in the series. Nevertheless, I'm gonna emphasize that in my view, this is going to be one of the key filters in the foreseeable future. The key developments of the Industrial Revolution were new ways of what I wanted to say. So you have a cheat sheet here. This is my cheat sheet. It's beginning to rain. It is beginning to rain.